"It's only for family," she said. That was the sentence. 7 syllables that fell like a slap across my face, disguised as politeness. I remember holding the phone to my ear, standing barefoot in my kitchen. The sun was pouring through the window, dancing on the tile floor like nothing was wrong. But those words, my sister's words, made the room feel cold. Only for family. And I, apparently, was not. She said it as if she were just clarifying a guest list. As if I hadn't helped raise her kids, taken care of our mother in her final days, or been the one person she always called when life got messy. She said it like a casual thing, like I should understand. My parents' 40th anniversary dinner. A private celebration. She'd planned it with them for weeks at their favorite restaurant, the one with the overpriced scallops and stiff white tablecloths. She booked the private room. She chose the wine. She sent out invitations. I didn't get one. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I called her cheerful and naive. "Hey, I heard about the dinner. What can I bring?" There was a pause, just a fraction of a second too long. Then came her voice, calm, clipped. "Oh, Mila. It's kind of just for family. Like, immediate family, you know. Immediate family." I blinked, staring at the dish soap bottle in my hand like it might explain something. "But I am immediate family," I said, quietly. "Aren't I?" Another pause. "You know what I mean," she said, and then something about keeping it small, about space, about how Mom and Dad wanted it that way. She said it all in a rush, as if hurrying through the script would soften the impact. It didn't. I hung up before I started crying. Then I sat down on my kitchen floor, still holding my phone, and let the silence fold around me. I thought of the times I'd driven 2 hours in the middle of the night when her marriage was falling apart. The time I'd taken care of her kids when she got shingles. The time I'd picked up Dad's prescription when she couldn't get away from her Pilates class. Apparently, none of that qualified me as family. But here's the thing, darling, this isn't a story about heartbreak. Not really. This is a story about what I did next. Because I didn't cry for long. No, the tears stopped once I realized what this really was. Not a simple oversight. Not a miscommunication. But a declaration. They didn't see me as one of them. And so I made a decision, calm, cold, clear. If I wasn't one of them, then they weren't going to get the version of me they'd grown so used to taking for granted. They'd get someone else. Someone who was no longer desperate for a seat at their table. Someone who would build her own damn table. And when I was finished building it, they'd come knocking. They always do. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't call or text. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I opened my laptop and got to work. They thought they were erasing me, but they'd just handed me the pen. You know, the funny thing about being excluded is that it doesn't sting the most right away. It's not the phone call that bruises you, it's the silence that follows. The hours where no one checks in. The way the world just keeps turning, like you never mattered at all. That was the hardest part. I didn't even tell anyone what happened. Not at first. Instead, I sat at my little desk by the window, the one with the chipped drawer and the faded old photo of me and my sister taped to the corner of the mirror. We were 12 and 10 in that photo, both of us sunburnt and barefoot, holding dripping popsicles and grinning like fools. We used to be inseparable. She used to call me her second mother. I stared at that picture for a long time before pulling open the drawer. Inside was my planner. Nothing fancy, just lined pages and to-do lists. But that night, I didn't look at appointments or errands. I flipped to a blank page and wrote 3 words at the top in red ink. Live without them. That was my premonition. A kind of quiet knowing that swept over me like a tide. I had spent years, making myself smaller, quieter, easier to love. I forgave them before they asked. I showed up when they didn't show up for me. I loaned money I never got back, bit my tongue when they mocked me, and smiled through more than one dinner where I was the punchline in their jokes. But now I saw what all that shrinking had earned me. A polite brush off. A closed door. A family dinner I wasn't even worth a chair at. So I decided to do something I'd never done before. I pulled out the envelope. The one I kept in the back of the drawer, sealed and yellowing, with my name written in my father's handwriting. It was a letter he wrote me when I turned 18. I'd never opened it. He gave both of us one, me and my sister. I knew she had opened hers immediately. I was too afraid of what mine might say. I told myself I'd read it when I was ready. That night, I finally was. I peeled it open with careful hands, as if the truth inside might still cut me. It was short. Milla, you have always been the strong one. The kind who holds other people up. That will be a beautiful thing until it isn't. One day, you'll have to choose. Hold everyone else, or finally stand up for yourself. Love, Dad. I stared at those words like they were a spell I'd forgotten how to speak. The strong one. Funny how strength gets mistaken for silence, doesn't it? That's when I knew I wasn't just going to move on from what they did. I was going to move forward into something they couldn't touch. A new life. One I didn't need permission for. I started making a list. Not a revenge list. Not exactly. More like a reclamation. What I gave them. Babysitting unpaid. Holidays planned and hosted. Last-minute loans. Emotional labor. Silence. What I got. It's only for family. And then, below that, I made a new list. What I will give myself. Boundaries. Voice. Celebration. I started small. I unsubscribed from the group chat. I turned off notifications. I canceled the auto payment for the family Netflix account. I'd been footing the bill for years. Then I did something big. I booked a dinner for one. At the very same restaurant they were going to. I knew their reservation. It wasn't hard to guess. It was my mother's favorite place. Friday night, 7:30. The private room. I wasn't going to crash it. I wasn't going to cause a scene. But I was going to sit in that same restaurant, at a corner table, in a dress that made me feel like fire. They didn't want me in the room? Fine. But I'd be close enough that they'd feel my absence like a stone in their throat. I'd be the presence they couldn't ignore. Not loud, not dramatic, just undeniable. And as I tried on that dress, the one I'd always said was too bold for a family dinner, I realized something. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about return. To myself. To the girl in the photo with the popsicle smile and scraped-up knees. She had always been bold. She had just forgotten. Friday night came, and with it, the kind of sharp, electric quiet that settles over your heart when you know everything's about to change. I curled my hair for the first time in weeks. Put on a dress that didn't whisper safe. It shimmered a deep ocean blue that hugged my waist and made my eyes look darker, sharper. I remember standing in front of the mirror, holding my earrings in my hands and thinking, you're not going there to be seen by them. You're going to be seen by yourself. That was the promise. The restaurant sat in the middle of town like a secret, tucked behind ivy-covered walls and a little gold plaque. I walked in at 7:26 sharp, heels clicking softly on the marble floor. Reservation for Milla, I said to the hostess. She glanced at her screen, smiled, and gestured toward a table by the window. Right this way. And that's when I saw them. Just beyond the velvet curtain, through the frosted glass that framed the private dining room, I caught a glimpse of my parents. My sister, her husband, their children, even my brother, who I hadn't seen since Easter. All seated, all smiling, all eating from a plate I wasn't welcome to. I turned away before anyone could see me and sat down at my table with all the quiet grace I could summon. The waiter came. I ordered wine. The good kind. Not the kind I used to pick, because someone else would complain about the price. I sat there like a woman who had chosen herself. And for 30 minutes, that was enough. Until a voice broke the spell. Milla? I looked up, and there she was. My cousin Ava. Of all people. She had come out of the private room, a cocktail in her hand, looking like she'd just stepped off the cover of a lifestyle magazine. But her eyes were wide with shock. I didn't know you were here, she said. I'm just having dinner, I replied, keeping my voice even. Her smile faltered. They didn't tell you? I raised an eyebrow. She sat down at the edge of my table without asking. They told us you were out of town, that you couldn't make it. The words dropped like stones. They said you were doing something with your friend group that night, she added, a touch too quickly. That you'd declined. My throat tightened. Did they now? I said. Ava hesitated. Her face twisted into something between confusion and concern. But Why would they say that? I didn't answer, because in that moment, something cold and clarifying clicked into place. They hadn't just excluded me. They had lied. They'd rewritten the story before I ever had a chance to speak. I hadn't been quietly left off the list. I had been erased. And worse, replaced by a version of myself that made everyone more comfortable. The Mila who was busy. The Mila who wouldn't mind. The Mila who always stepped back so others could step forward. That Mila didn't exist anymore. "I'm so sorry," Ava said, her voice softening. "I thought you chose not to come." "No," I said, my voice steady now. "I was never invited." Her eyes flashed with something like guilt. Or maybe shame. I didn't want to examine it too closely. Not yet. There was a pause. She looked down at the tablecloth. Then she reached across and touched my hand. "Good for you," she whispered. "Sitting here like this. I don't think I'd have the courage." I looked at her for a long moment. And then I said it, the sentence I didn't know had been living inside me all along. They didn't just leave me out. They wrote me out. And that's when the tears came, not from me, but from her. Tiny, quiet things. As if seeing me there, radiant and rejected, had unlocked something in her too. "They've always done that," she said, blinking quickly. "To you. To me sometimes. Like if you don't fit the picture, they crop you out." I nodded slowly. "But the thing is, they never owned the picture." She smiled through her tears. "You always were the brave one." "No," I said. "But I am now." Ava stood. She squeezed my shoulder. And then, God bless her, she walked back into that private room like a woman carrying a secret. I don't know what she said to them. I don't know if she looked them in the eye and called them out, or if she sat in silence, letting the truth simmer under her skin. All I know is this. 3 minutes later, the curtain shifted, and my sister appeared, face pale, eyes locked on mine. She walked over to my table, slowly, like she was approaching something dangerous. "Mila," she said, "what are you doing here?" I sipped my wine, and said, quietly, exactly what you didn't want me to do. I don't remember setting down my glass, but when I looked, it was there, perfectly still on the white linen tablecloth. A single bead of condensation sliding down the stem like a tear too proud to fall. My sister stood across from me, stiff as a statue. And for once in our lives, she had nothing clever to say. "You told them I was busy," I said calmly. "That I had plans." "Mila, you said I couldn't make it." "That I declined." She closed her eyes, just for a second. That small flicker of guilt rippling across her face. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I said. I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice so the waiter clearing a table nearby couldn't hear. "You didn't just exclude me. You erased me. And then you wrote a version of the story that made you look innocent. Mila, I didn't think you'd want to come. It was just. Family?" I said, arching a brow. The silence between us stretched thin and sharp. My hands were steady in my lap, but my heart was thudding loud enough I was sure she could hear it. Because this moment was something I'd always avoided. Confrontation. But I wasn't afraid anymore. "I am your sister," I said. "I've been your emergency contact, your late-night therapist, your babysitter, your carpool, your constant. But you made a choice." She opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes flicked toward the private room, where the family waited behind frosted glass and candlelight. "I just didn't want any tension," she said. "You know how Mom gets. You and her." "Don't," I said softly. "Don't blame this on her. This is you." She flinched. And I saw it then, the real reason. It wasn't about space, or about Mom, or even about the dinner. It was about control. I had stopped fitting her idea of me. I had grown out of the mold. I'd said no too many times. I'd started putting up boundaries, and she didn't like it. So she made the only move she knew, exclusion, wrapped in passive aggression, sealed with plausible deniability. That's the cruelty of these kinds of families, isn't it? They won't scream at you. They'll just forget to invite you. "It was supposed to be simple," she said, her voice growing defensive. "One nice night. One dinner. No drama." "No Mila," I corrected. She bit her lip. I saw the muscles in her jaw twitch. "Why didn't you just say something?" she snapped. "Why do you always do this, sitting there like some silent martyr?" That made me laugh. Really laugh. It was short and sharp and didn't reach my eyes. "You lied about me," I said. "And now you're mad that I didn't pretend not to notice?" Her face flushed red. "You're making a scene." "No," I said, rising slowly. "I'm being seen. For once." I picked up my purse. Calm. Deliberate. As if the fire burning in my chest hadn't already turned everything to ash. She stared at me, waiting for me to yell, to cry, to beg. But that version of me, the soft one, the one who swallowed her pain with a polite smile, that version died the moment I heard it's only for family. And what rose in her place was someone I barely recognized but had missed for years. I walked past her. No drama. No tears. Just a quiet, final kind of truth in the click of my heels on the tile. But I didn't go home. Not yet. I walked out of the restaurant and into the cool night air. The sky was dark velvet and the streetlights flickered softly above me. I kept walking, past the bookstore, past the florist with its wilted roses in the window, until I reached the little hill that overlooked town. That's when the messages started. First one from Ava. "Are you okay?" Then my brother, of all people. "What the hell happened?" "Mom looks sick. Anna just said you showed up." Then finally, the one I knew was coming. My mother. A single line. "Couldn't you just have let her have her night?" I stared at that message for a long time. Not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed everything. It was never about me. It never had been. It was about keeping the peace, the picture, the illusion, even if that meant cropping me out. I didn't respond. Not to Ava. Not to my brother. Not to my mother. Not yet. Because I wasn't done. This wasn't about one dinner anymore. It was about every moment they had made me feel like a guest in my own family. And it was time for them to understand something they had conveniently forgotten. I built this family too. I didn't go to sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, arms folded, phone buzzing like a wasp on the counter. Every message was a variation of the same hymn. "Why did you do this?" "Why no? Couldn't you have waited? Couldn't you have been quiet, just this once?" As if silence was my gift to the family. As if invisibility was a role I had volunteered for. And I suppose I had. For years. Until the night they proved how easy it was for them to forget me. But what none of them knew, what none of them could have expected, was what I did next. The next morning, I wrote a letter. Not a scathing email. Not a group text. A proper letter. On paper. In my handwriting. Folded neatly into cream-colored envelopes. One for my sister. One for my mother. And one for the rest of them, addressed to the family. I delivered them myself. No dramatic drop-offs. No doorbell confrontations. Just letters left in mailboxes, slid under doors, placed carefully where they couldn't be ignored. And then I waited. The first call came from my sister. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just said, "I read it." I said nothing. "I didn't know you felt that way." I let the silence answer for me, because I had felt that way for years. And she had known. She just hadn't cared to ask. "I didn't think it mattered," she added. "It mattered to me," I said. "I thought you were stronger than that." I exhaled. There it was. The old wound. "I am strong," I said. "But I'm not disposable." There was a long pause. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And I believed her. But I also knew this. Apologies don't rewind the clock. They don't unsend the uninvites. They don't unwrite the stories that left you out of your own family. And sometimes I'm sorry isn't the end. It's just the start of earning your way back. That evening, I did something small, but it was something for me. I cooked a meal I loved, not one anyone had requested. No kid-friendly substitutions. No low-sodium versions for someone else's diet. Just food that made me feel alive. And as I ate at a table set for one, I played music I hadn't listened to in years. I turned it up. I sang along. And I laughed. Not at anyone. Not in bitterness. But in relief. Because for the first time, I wasn't waiting for a call. I wasn't hoping to be included. I was already home. A few days later, my brother reached out. Gently. No excuses. Just a question. "Can we talk?" "Just you and me." I said yes. He came by with a pie and a look I hadn't seen in years. A look that said, "I see you now." We sat on the porch. said all the things we'd never said at birthdays or holidays. And when he left, he hugged me tightly and said something I'll never forget. "You weren't wrong. We just didn't want to face it." That was the beginning of a real change. Not everyone came around. My mother still hasn't spoken to me. And that's okay, because healing doesn't require everyone to agree. It only requires you to stop waiting for them. A month later, I hosted a dinner. Small. Mine. No head of the table. No power plays. Just real food, real talk, and real family, chosen or otherwise. And they came. My cousin Ava. My brother. My niece who asked if she could bring her girlfriend this time. I said, "Of course, darling." We laughed. We told the truth. We didn't apologize for who we were. And as I cleared the dishes that night, alone in the quiet hum of my kitchen, I thought about that sentence. It's only for family. And I smiled. Because they were right. Family isn't everyone you share blood with. It's who shows up, who sees you, who chooses you. And I choose me now. Every day. No invitation required.